Welcome back, everybody, to Confluence World Podcast with Brian Rector. And today, actually, on what really is becoming a special Father's Day episode, we're here with Kamaria McDaniel, who's played at a few different colleges for women's basketball and has become somebody who's well-rounded and just has a plethora of things going on, trying to make impact on the community, and has a significant backstory. So I'm very excited to get into all of that with her. But first off, I wanted to say thank you for hosting me in a family home, your grandmother's home, Inkster, Michigan. Made the drive out from East Lansing just about an hour and a half ago. And we've been sitting here having a conversation about life and about kind of the direction with which God is taking us. And we're so ecstatic to be breaking it all down for you in a live scenario.
Yes.
So with that, I'll say, you're a year removed from Michigan State and having graduated after, I believe, graduated at Baylor and at Michigan State too,
Yes,
right?
Baylor was undergrad and at Michigan State. I got my master's last August.
Okay, for sure. In the last year of time since you've been a college player and since you had been in college and working towards a degree, what are some of the things that you've been doing? How are you staying busy and active?
I would say, obviously I went to Turkey, and going to Turkey, I was fresh out of my degree, and when we talk about God and God being intentional, I had no plans of playing overseas. I said, WNBA or nothing. My agent was like, well, you didn't get drafted, and nobody invited you to training camp, so to have a shot at your dreams, you need to go overseas. And I'm like, man. And so it was looking slim for me, and a lot of people don't even know this. I didn't sign until like the very last minute, and I signed in Turkey, and I went over there for 7 months, and it was just this discovery process. I figured out who Kamaria was, and out of all my 24 years of living, I only identified myself as a basketball player. I never knew myself outside of that, what I liked. I'm getting more into fashion and things like expressing myself. But God is so intentional, and so I went to Turkey. I went through that whole process and got to know myself, and I'm doing real estate. I'm doing athlete empowerment, mental wellness, getting into that realm, and then also just things around the community with things I see the need for in terms of our youth and loving themselves, and that's why I'm doing the event. So, real estate, and then I'm still training for basketball, athlete empowerment, and then, community stuff. So, those 4 things.
For sure. Thank you for breaking that down. I think one of the things that's unique about the conversation you and I can have is what it looks like to have finished and be able to more so shift your identity.
Right.
So I was wondering, when did it become apparent to you that it was important for you to search for other things, other methods of gratification, other endeavors? When did that come about within you?
It was sparked at Baylor. I was still pretty stubborn, and then God really revealed it to me, I would say, in my last year at Michigan State. I don't know if no one even knows it, and I'm telling you this, but I went through this mourning process throughout it was like mid-season, my last season at Michigan State, and I just didn't know why I was sad. I felt like the WNBA was slipping out of my hands. We had a coaching change. Our team was facing adversity. I was facing a lot of adversity within the program a lot of people didn't know about. And, I kind of went through this mourning process of mourning an idol and removing that from my life. And I was going to our Bible meetups, AIA, and that was kind of keeping me afloat at that point. And I really was just sad, and I actually wrote a breakup letter to basketball that no one even knows about, and I'm hoping to share. But I wrote that letter, and I had just had enough, and I was contemplating quitting the sport altogether, just because of everything that had happened and how I've let it control my life. So I would say that time at Michigan State, it was about a 2-week period, like January leading into February, where I was just going through it, and I was like, I don't know, it's kind of like breaking out of my cocoon, and I was able to open my eyes. I wasn't blinded by a dream anymore. I think a lot of times we can be blinded by a dream, and I was. And I said, my dad, we were driving back from a game, and I was coming home, and he said, you're not getting up the extra shots, and like, what's going on? And I read him the breakup letter, and we cried in the car together, and he could just tell like I was exhausted, and so I let that go. And fast forward, a year later, I was in WNBA training camp, right back where I thought I would never be. But it was at the moment where I let go. You can't hold on to things too tight because you're going to squeeze it and push it away. But it's when I surrendered to God's plan, it all came together. Yeah.
And I think I'm really glad that you kind of segued into where I wanted to go, which was that today is Father's Day.
Yeah.
And that feels like a really pivotal time that he was there and able to kind of shed some light on the situation and help you sort through some things.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you could talk about, because we're celebrating, what your relationship is with him. And I know that it was, having watched the Spartan Vision, Spartan All Access on you, that was kind of a focal point of that. So talk a little bit about that and what he's meant.
He's meant the world, both of my parents. I mean, like, you're only as good as your spot, and you're only as good as your village. And I have an amazing village that have kept me going when I felt like I couldn't keep going. And my dad, he's the one who put a basketball in my hand. He was coaching, and that's how I got into it when I was younger. We would set goals and play in the driveway. And he sat me down. I don't know how old I was, but he was just like, this is what you want to do, is getting to that point where you have to like lock in, basically. And from that moment, we continue to grind relentlessly. And my dad, shout out to him, he's just faced a lot of adversity. I'm sure you can see from being around here, this can be, and sometimes is, a really rough spot. And the odds that he defied to be the man and the father that he is today, I commend him, and I'm grateful because he had every excuse in the world not to be. And so, but he has exceeded every expectation that he's probably even set for himself in terms of being a dad and a mentor and a best friend. So, Dad, when you watch this, I love you, and I appreciate you pushing through. And God only knows the things that you've had to break free from, and the bonds that were on you, but you continue to push forward and set a great example. So I appreciate you, and both of my parents, my mom over there, love her too. So,
well, I do want to say thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think hearing that and understanding where you do come from, that to me makes more sense when you consider what it looked like throughout your college career, from the beginning to the end, in terms of adversity and having to be strong and having to have that support system. But I was wondering if you could recount for me, just because it was a curiosity, is what was the first time where you had a significant piece of adversity and you kind of took a step back and said, how do I want to go about this? And what was that process like of learning how to work through something that was very challenging for you?
To the naked eye would probably be my first ACL. That happened in high school, but to me it wasn't. I bounced back from that, and I was able to still stay focused. I was still very stubborn, and I think for me, moments that define you are moments that change you. And it was definitely when I tore my ACL and I tore my meniscus in half at Baylor. At the time under Coach Malky, it was at practice. Coming down, I got a steal, and my leg just collapsed. And first thing I said, if you ask Coach Malky, I'm gonna call her and we're gonna get it on. But I was saying Jesus. I was yelling out Jesus. She came. I was like, Jesus, please, because I knew. And at that point, WNBA coaches and scouts were calling for me. I felt like I was this close to my dream, and a little bit after that, the transfers got cleared to play, and one of my teammates, Dejanay Carrington, was one of those transfers, and she's now in the league. So a lot of my teammates that were at Baylor are now in the WNBA, and that was my dream and my goal, and it was something that was right there, it felt like to me, and I was like, God, really? You would take it away? And looking back on it, I'm so glad. I don't regret anything from that situation. It was a rough about year and a half for me. Just with the coaching change, being in the bubble, I was depressed. I was in a bad spot, but those are moments that make you who you are, and that's the reason why I have the knowledge, why I have the wisdom that I have now. It's because God allowed me to go through that, and I'm happy, and I'm just happy that I can tell someone, look at me, if you just put one foot in front of the other, look at what you can become, and nothing is ever over with God in your life, and with God first and foremost in your life, and I'm living proof of that. So it was definitely that injury at Baylor, being so close to my dream at that point. And then everything seemed to crumble after that. So.
Absolutely. And to anyone who's listening, that is certainly a lot to take in and endure during a really, kind of a quick period of time. But I was curious, when that started to happen and you realized, I know you said even when it just happened, you knew that there was something significant at play here. What were some of the things that you turned to when you were recovering? How did you, did you bond with family? Did you read the Bible? Like, what were some of those keys to you to stay afloat? Was a word that you used earlier.
I would say family and God. Something and a trait that have been working through in therapy is I'm a person that kind of shuts down when things get hard for me, and I kind of went on a hiatus at that point in my life. Everybody knew that I went to Baylor, but no one knew what was wrong with me. No one knew. I stopped posting on social media. I had surgery. A lot of people that seemed like they were rooting for me and went away, and half of that is on me. Basically disappearing for that whole time, and so I leaned on my family, and one thing that I yearn is unconditional love at this point in my life. It's the people that no matter what are gonna love me, because at the end of the day, that's what Jesus represents. And I choose not to be around conditions within love, because I don't think that love was meant for conditions, and that's how we know it, and that's how Jesus is. So the people that truly embody that are the people that I want to be around. And I cried and prayed a lot. I prayed so much. I was at that point in my life, I didn't understand. But sometimes God puts us in positions to where we have to trust Him. A lot of times with my talent and the things that, I work hard to get, because I work really hard for things, it takes something like that to really get your attention when you try to make a lot of stuff happen for yourself. And as I reflected, it was just like I tried to control my own destiny. I was a first teamer at Penn State, and I left because felt like I wanted to get myself closer to the WNBA. But I don't make that call, and I tried to make that call, and adversity still hit me. It still happened the way God wanted it to happen. So, that moment was big.
That makes sense. And I think, one of the things that I'm realizing when I'm here speaking with you and understanding kind of how things played out is that there's always been, throughout your career, there were changes that were made, whether it be external or internal, that let you know it was time to go, and it was time to make a move. And I was wondering, has that concept of understanding that it was time to go, or being kind of pushed to make a dramatic change, has that left any room for regret, or has it been all something that you're welcome and open to, kind of the journey that has been?
If I would have made any major change, my life wouldn't be what it is today, and I'm so grateful for where I am. I don't live life with regrets because in the Bible, you know what I'm saying, it says that God has a perfect plan. And everything that I've did off of my intuition at that point, whether I was walking in the triumph or walking in the storm, it's all necessary. And I think that's the message that I want to send is like, no matter what you're going through, it's nothing that you could have did different because everything happens in its perfect order and perfect sequence for our life. And it's at the point when you surrender to whatever's happening and get what you're supposed to learn, because how else will we know our purpose without adversity? How else will we get wiser with no adversity? So expecting to not encounter any would be expecting not to get wiser, in my opinion. And so I have no regrets. I love my journey. I love the way that God set it up in his perfect and beautiful way, and I've been enjoying every step of the way. I feel those emotions when that adversity hits, but knowing that God is omnipotent, he's omnipresent, and he's all-knowing, and he would never leave me nor forsake me. So I would say the one thing that I did do is I kept a couple verses that could combat any negative thoughts in my head. The Romans 8:28, all things work together for the good of those who love him, and I would just reiterate, like, God, I love you, so everything has to work together. And just knowing that I'm an heir to the throne of Christ, and being an heir to the throne comes with royalty, and you know, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. The power of life and death is in your tongue, and that kept me to stay positive, think positive as much as possible, and just knowing God said that anything that we ask of him, he will give to us, and asking you shall receive. So those things I kind of keep in my head at all times, and just knowing the purpose of the devil as well, and not giving him that much power or acknowledgement. And yes, that was basically it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those specific verses. I think that's very actionable and will be appreciated for those who are listening to be able to open to a page, right, and see it in tangible way. But at your different stops during college, how were you able to share your faith, if you were, and how was the culture at each of the spots that you stopped at in terms of being able to be open and have any dialogue about these things we're talking about?
I would say I really started being open about it at Michigan State. I did a lot of things, you know, by myself at Penn State and at Baylor and Penn State. I think up until like when I was about to leave Baylor, I was a very like mentally stubborn person, so God was in my life, but I also felt like I had some say-so, and that was just the immaturity in me, and that played into the decision for me leaving Penn State in the first place, because it's like, you know, let me make this move so I can put myself in position. And so it wasn't until I took a real leap of faith when I left Baylor. And a lot of people don't know this, but I left Baylor with no games to spare. If I had to play one more game, I would have never played college basketball again.
Wow.
So the day I made that decision was the cutoff, and I knew nothing about it until I was just stepping out on faith. I knew I couldn't be there. I couldn't be there anymore. I couldn't be around those people anymore. And so, I mean, that plays into, like you said, when God talks to you and with the intuition. It's a lot of things about the Baylor situation that people don't know, but I really started getting into my faith when I left Baylor, because it was about a 6-month period where I didn't know. I submitted a mental health waiver to the NCAA.
Okay.
Because I had been going to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, because I had been going through so much, and I don't even think they knew that. So it was a record of me going, and that's what helped, and then attributed to me getting the waiver pass. But I was training as if I had already been approved to go to Michigan State, even though I didn't know, because they could have denied me. So that's when it picked up, and I got more active and open about it. You know.
Yeah, I see. And that actually, you saying that was a curious thing for me for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to ask, being that you opened up a little bit more, as you said, once you had gotten to Michigan State, Would you say that that's a product of being at Michigan State and what was there and the situation there, or was that just the experience and the years that you had now had and the opportunity to do more with it and to maximize it?
I think I've always been strong in my faith, strong in the word. Really had to figure out how to apply it to my life and really take it in. I think that people see the religious side of things and not the spiritual and intimately spiritual part. So I shifted my focus from religion to like intimately pursuing a relationship with God, and that's when I saw things start to change. And so I had that, and then I had a couple experiences, spiritual experiences that really opened me up to like, man, God is real. He's with me. And then when I got to Michigan State, I was like, I need to put myself out there more. I need to get around people who are like-minded, and then that's how I got connected with AIA, and then it really helped me to, be more open about my faith to other people and, collaborate with them, and it was a great experience. So Michigan State, the AIA, Julie, they were great.
Shout out Michigan State, AIA,
shout out
and
AIA.
Phil and Julie, and
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who were some of the people that you connected with, some of the other students and athletes during that time?
It was a lot. It was a lot of athletes, like just from AIA. It's a lot to name, but I mean, like people you would see every day or just show up with, a good spirit and love in their hearts, just because we serve the same God and continue to strive to be the best that we could be. But it was a lot of them. It was softball, track. I got cool with a lot of people on the track team, and some football players, and even my own teammates. It helped grow our relationship because we started to go together and see each other there. So we started getting cooler, and then afterwards, going to get food or talking about what was talked about at AIA. So it was a lot.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I was thinking about something as you were answering that, which was that you had the chance to be a part of a couple different programs, obviously, during college, a couple of which, are kind of very successful historically, one being Baylor. And that brings up the question that I had for you, which is that there's been so much growth in the women's basketball game and in the visibility of women's sport as a whole. I was wondering, what are your thoughts about where it's going and what has kind of happened to get it to this point of growth and visibility and people enjoying and conversation? What are your thoughts?
I think it's great. I think I hate that one thing I do dislike is that for the women's side, it has to be negative. I think a lot of stuff is negative, but like people say, all publicity is good publicity, I guess, in a way. But I just wish that we were celebrated in a positive light for the things that we do, the competitiveness that we show, rather than it being a different narrative. But at the end of the day, I love growth. I think I want anybody and everybody and everything to grow. I think women deserve the recognition that we're getting. We're very skilled. We work just as hard on our craft and, endure things on our journey just like anybody else. And I am excited to see where it goes, because I don't think it ends here. I think it's just the beginning of something great. And, especially with the W. And the NBA has been around for 76 or some years now. So there's about a 50-year gap in between, something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
So just seeing that there's room to grow, and over the years it'll become what people envision. But all great things take time. So yeah.
I've been impressed hearing you speak with how well articulated you are and how methodical about what you're going to say you are.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course, of course. I happen to know that one of the things that may very well have attributed to that is a love for reading for you.
Yes.
So I wanted to know,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of those key kind of like lessons or books that come to mind for you and that have played a integral part in getting you here?
Man, talking about books, that's my
Here we go.
Here we go. Oh man, I feel like it's been, I tell people this all the time. It feels like every book that I read was in perfect sequence. Even though they were randomly selected, I started off with Chop Wood, Carry Water. That kind of opened up. And I was never an avid reader. Saquon Barkley during, my sophomore year in college, I think, Saquon posted on his Snapchat the Chop Wood, Carry Water book. I was like, that looks like an easy read. Let me read it. So I read that. I really digested that. And then during quarantine, I did this thing every morning. It was 30 minutes regular book and 30 minutes Bible. So I did that for about 4 months straight.
Okay.
And, I read the 4 Agreements, the 5th Agreements. I read Relentless by Michael Jordan's trainer, Tim Grover. I read Limitless by Jim Quick. It was a book about, how the brain works and our neuroplasticity. And so, just to name a few that defined me, I would definitely say Chop Wood, Carry Water. That really opened my eyes. And then Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. That has me, like, one of my bucket list items is going off the grid for at least a couple months and doing monk training in the woods. I really want to do that. And just for the mindfulness, I think everything is about how mindful you can be. And so, but I would have to say my favorite, right now I'm reading a book about quantum physics.
Okay.
So Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. But my favorite book I actually read it in Turkey is A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Oh my gosh. When I say that book changed my whole everything, and it was about, basically how we operate so much on ego. And it really made me check myself. It's like, how is my ego operating right now? And I've been telling everybody that I've been around lately is, I had this experience at church, and it was a pretty awakening experience. And ever since then, it's like I'm conscious of both my conscious and subconscious. So I'm getting to a point where I'm able to observe my own thoughts, and instead of reacting to stuff. And one of my mentors, David McCullough, actually, shout out David. He did, I don't know if you've heard of Inception. It's a mental health gym. And basically, there's a stimuli and a reaction.
Okay.
But if there's no space in between, the space in between is a choice. And I think that I've pushed stimuli and I've pushed reaction back a little bit, and I got that space for a choice. So that's when I'm starting to like separate the subconscious from the conscious and not just acting on autopilot and then doing things, and it's like, oh, I have to apologize for that. It's like, wait, don't do that. That's not a good idea. So I've just really been in this, and it was really sparked by Eckhart Tolle, and it just talks a lot about spirituality and being, God is within us, and I think people see that as a external thing, but God is within us. He made us in His likeness and His image. Is just about kind of uncovering how that manifests in your life, and that's kind of like the journey that I'm on, and just learning about the quantum physics. And I know I tell people that a lot, and they're like, quantum physics, but for me, quantum physics is just putting active faith into play. It's just showing you how to have active faith, and it's like really intimidating to hear it, but then you hear it and it's like, oh, this is kind of like what God means when He says, like, have faith, be where you want to be, embody and feel who you want to be before you be it, and it'll materialize. And so, that's kind of what I'm on right now. I'm getting into, brain patterns and just all that type of stuff. I'm like a super nerd, so yeah, books are my thing right now. So I'm on my quantum physics vibe right now.
Super nerd. That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Tell me, and so I really appreciate the conversation that we just had about books and learning for a number of reasons. But one of the things that I did hear about you is that something that's resonated with you is bamboo.
Bamboo. I'm a bamboo kid. Absolutely.
Let's talk about that.
So the bamboo life cycle, it grows underground for years. So you plant the seed and you see nothing. You see absolutely nothing, but the roots are growing so deep. So the roots grow first in the bamboo. So I feel like my life has kind of been like that. I've went through so many things behind the scenes. I've planted a lot of seeds, met a lot of people, experienced so many things that will help me to be of service. And right now, I feel like I am at the genesis of my sprouting up out of the ground. But my roots are so deep that I'll never be destroyed. And so I'm glad my roots grew first. I'm glad I went through everything that I did at such a young age, because it was actually so funny. And I got that bamboo life cycle thing out of Chopper would carry water, and that's why it's so significant to me. But I went on a hike with one of my old strength coaches at Baylor, and he was like, "Man, I have bamboos that grow in my backyard. I hate those things because once I chop them down, they keep coming back." And I was like, and he was like, "They come back stronger." And he said it, and in my head, like, and he probably doesn't even remember saying that, but in my head, I'm like, "Yep." He was like, "I chop them down. He's like, "They keep coming back stronger." And I was like, "That's who I am. That's who God ordained me to be." And so the bamboo it embodies everything that I admire about my story and my journey, and I think that's like my spirit plant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I think that right there has the ability to resonate with many people.
Yeah.
And so given that, and that you have these like nuggets of wisdom that you're ready and willing to share with some guy like me, you know, who's trying to get to know you and trying to share the story. What are some of those things that you would tell to a younger player who's working their way up to be at some of the places you've been able to be at and are starting their process?
Honestly, I would say, first of all, comparison is the thief of joy. And a lot of these things, I hate when people say that's cliche. I feel like the cliche sayings are the most accurate. Comparison is the thief of joy. Your journey is yours. Your journey is unique and tailored to you. And there's something that you can learn in every moment. I would say focus on being aware how you feel, how things make you feel, and making choices based off of what you feel in your heart, and not letting other people's opinions cloud you. And you do that by spending time with yourself, talking, saying affirmations in the mirror, and taking time to be quiet with yourself, because if you don't fill yourself up, then everybody else will be pouring into you. But if you're already filled up, what they do is just run over. It's kind of like if you fill up a jar of water already, everything else is just going to flow over the top because it's already full. What you want to do, you can do it. Like for me, I was told, and I won't say at this point, I was told I would never be the same player that I ever will again. I won't reach my goals. I was told that I wasn't good enough for certain levels. I was told that my waiver wouldn't get passed. I was told everything under the sun. And I still was able to reach and attain those things. So don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't ask for advice. That's another one of my big things. Like if someone is telling you something or criticizing you, if they're not someone that loves you unconditionally, you never know where that's coming from. A lot of people deflect. A lot of people are insecure. A lot of people see your light and want to dim it because they don't feel like they shine as bright. And I faced that literally everywhere that I've been. And at the end of the day, you have to be you, and you have to be okay with whatever that looks like. And I think I've gotten to the point where I'm being me, and some people are going to take it, some people are going to leave it, but I'm okay with that because I'm going to bed every night being me, being who God ordained me to be. So those are my biggest things. And when it get hard, because I feel like I reached rock bottom, especially when I got to Baylor, just put one foot in front of the other and lean on the people who love you no matter what. because those people are going to make sure that you're okay and are going to show you the love that's necessary to keep going. And God got you. When he said he'll never leave you nor forsake you, he wasn't lying. He wasn't lying. It doesn't mean that you're not going to go through the storm, but every time we have a storm, and we see it every day, God gives us all type of, confirmation. But every time we have a thunderstorm, a tsunami, a tornado, the sun still shines after that. And I've been through some tsunamis, some tornadoes, some hurricanes, and the sun always shine really bright afterwards. And I'm living proof. I'm living proof of everything that you hear in the Bible and that you think about. And also, if you want something to read in the Bible, the book of Job. That's what got me through at Baylor. When he was stripped of everything. And his friends, everybody told him, like, you still believe in God? Like, you still? And he did, and he was rewarded. He got triple what he had before. That's what kept me going. It's like God did it for him, he'll do it for me, because I'm his child. He died for me as well. So, that's my biggest thing if I was give key points.
Wow, that's really good. And, yeah, of course. And what I was thinking is, shoot, there's nothing new under the sun. And there's nothing that is bestowed upon us that we can't handle. And, like, wow. When you tie everything that you just spoke on together, it becomes something really special. That's, a true armor, right? Something that is a shield from
God.
That's right. From
Absolutely.
whatever comes. That was really cool. Wow. I'm almost not sure where to go from there. That was phenomenal. Let me ask you something. I was just on a podcast that actually I was not speaking on, or I was not hosting, but I was the subject of.
Oh, okay.
And there's a lady back in Wilsonville, Oregon, my hometown, who she is a chiropractor and physical therapist for a lot of our athletic teams at the high school I came from.
Okay.
And she's been doing it for something like 30 years.
Wow.
And one thing that she has become great at is showing up every day, and in showing up, being joyful about it. And you're somebody who strikes me as tremendously joyful.
Yeah.
So one of her subject points that she asked me that I need to ask you now is, what is your definition of joy, if you had to break it down?
Well, our divine joy is unconditional. I mean, it's a choice. I think we kind of don't acknowledge how many choices we make. Let me ask you something. Other than breathing, pumping blood through your body, your heart, like, what's not a choice? You made a choice to drive here. You made a choice to cross your leg. You made a choice, right?
That's right.
So,
yeah,
joy is a choice that you make. So that's how I would define it. A choice to be happy. At the end of the day, we're all just a product of our choices. I mean, other than our health, other than, like I said, what is it, the autonomic nervous system, the one that's automatic?
Yeah.
So other than that, everything is a product of what we choose, the choice that we make in our mind, whether that's the conscious or subconscious controlling that's up for you to decide, but everything is a choice. And I think taking accountability for the choices that I make is defining that joy for me, because when something happens, I actually heard like an old fable, and it's in one of the books I read as well, the Eckhart Tolle. It's like when something happens, it's like you choose what perspective to take on it. It's like when you get hurt, okay, now I'm hurt, so I have to focus on this now, rerouting. Or you could say, oh, well, it's me, God, why not? It's a choice. And so joy is a choice to make, to be positive every day. Joy is a choice to make, to find the good in everything, because no matter how hard it gets, if you live in it, still some good in it. And that's just what I choose every day, because why not?
Why not?
If things are already going rough, why choose to think about it in a rough way? Is that going to make it any better, or is it really making it worse? So being aware of that is my biggest thing. One of my biggest things I've been focusing on is like, I'm making this choice right now. Nobody's making me. So, I mean, I take real accountability with that.
Yeah, I think accountability is so good and so necessary.
Yeah.
What are some of the choices that Kamaria McDaniel has in front of her to be made? Where are you headed? What are some of your aspirations? What's next for you?
So when I was in Turkey, I defined purpose. And my choice is to walk in the purpose that God has revealed in my life. And how do you find purpose? Is through the adversity you went through and the wisdom you've gained to be of service to somebody else. So through my journey, I found out how to find myself in something that is an idol or takes up a lot of my life. I found out how to contribute to my community through real estate development, and I found out what is a key pillar to a child not having to go through a crisis later on in life. And that's why I'm doing the self-love day. So really it's just athlete empowerment, well-being, the identity discovery process, and implementing that in a program, in a system to where it'll be effective through the things that I use to keep me afloat, and giving that to my peers so that they can understand that their existence is proof of purpose. The adversity is proof of purpose, and when you look at it like that, it's actually God revealing to you what he wants you to do in life. And so through everything that I've been through, finding a way to materialize it and make it tangible to be of service, and that's my main focus. And just doing what I love, which is playing basketball. And the only reason why I'm continuing to do it is because I love it dearly and sincerely, because it's a lot of things that I don't like that comes with it, but I still love it. But I love it in a healthy way. It's just like a relationship with another person. You know, when that unhealthy attachment comes, it's no good. But when you love and respect each other and give each other the necessary space, then it can be a healthy relationship. And that's where I've gotten to with basketball. And, you know, those are the choices that I'm making. I'm making a choice to, it says in the Bible, the hand of the diligent shall prosper. So it doesn't say the wicked or the not wicked. It says the hand of the diligent. So I'm being diligent. I'm working towards things every day and making sure that I'm making every moment count, because that's what God wants us to do.
That's right. That's right. You know, we've touched on many things that I'm very excited about, and I'm thankful that you've been willing and able to share. And I just want to say that you've gained a fan today.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. It started with that Joe Does interview. When that happened, I went, oh, okay.
That's my guy.
Yeah, that's
Shout
for
out
real.
Him. Shout out Joe.
That's for real. Joe's still hustling. I can tell you that.
Shout out Joe.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything more that you would like to touch on or go over or give thanks to, or the floor is yours before I get out of here?
Well, I just want to thank you for having me. Of course, anytime where I can share my story, I love to do that. I think it's a key part of what God wants us to do, is to share our testimonies and tell people where he's brought us from, so they'll believe that he will do the same for them. So having this platform to do that, I'm forever grateful for you coming down, reaching out, driving down here. It's been a great time talking to you and connecting with you. I want to thank my family, my village, for keeping me afloat, and most of all, thanking God just, you know, for showing me over and over again just how much favor of his is on my life and how much he loves me, and just for the ultimate sacrifice that I can live the life that I live today. And just for everybody out there, just understand that, you know, God's timing and his plan is so perfect, and all your job is to do is stay present. And no matter what, just know that he'll never leave you nor forsake you, and I'm living proof. I've reached the top and the rock bottom, everything in between, and one thing that has been consistent is God. And when you go through a lot, if he say that he will never put more on you than you can bear, he just showing you how strong you are. So keep pushing, listen to yourself, keep striving, and your purpose and your plan will be revealed in a beautiful and special way. And you're going to be so glad that you never gave up, because I am. And thanks for having me.
Anytime. And, you know, folks, that's going to be it for us today on Confluence World Podcast with Brian Rector.
Tune in.
Hey, yeah, you heard it here. But seriously, you know, that's episode 2 of season 3. Really appreciate the fact that you all, whoever's listening, have been along for the ride. And this, I mean, was just an electric conversation. I think, you know, I'm not somebody who, you said earlier, which I agree with, comparison is the thief of joy. So the last thing I can do is compare every episode I've ever done.
Yeah.
But if I were to do that, I would say that this has been just fantastic. I mean, being able to be here with you and have driven up here and had a fruit-bearing conversation such as this one, it means a lot. So
yeah, God is good. He connects His people so we can be stronger and continue to impact lives in a positive way. So
that's right.
Glad to meet another God-fearing person, and we're gonna do great things.
That's right. That's right. And happy Father's Day, y'all out there.
Yes.
And have a good one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.